In this video, we are going to be breaking down of SpongeBob Game Lore to Fall Asleep 2. Let's get started with the first console in Bikini Bottom. The water is calm tonight, and as we sink gently beneath the surface, Bikini Bottom does not greet us with noise or laughter, but with a soft glow, like the light of an old television left on in a quiet room. Somewhere in the coral shadows, a screen flickers to life, and the world you know begins to feel just a little different, as if it has been remembered rather than visited. Here, in this version of the ocean, Bikini Bottom is not only a town, but a dream that can be entered, a place that waits patiently inside cartridges and discs, inside menus and save files, until someone chooses to drift back in. The first console hums like a seashell held to your ear, whispering of jellyfish fields made of pixels, of streets smoothed into simple shapes, of familiar homes rebuilt from glowing lines of code. SpongeBob lives here too, of course, but he feels softer somehow, like a thought floating through sleep. His square edges are rounded by light, his eyes forever wide with the same gentle hope, even when the world around him feels emptier than it should. When the game begins, the town is quiet. Doors are closed, the wind moves through invisible currents, and SpongeBob steps forward, not because anyone asked him to, but because that is what he always does. He moves when the world needs moving. Named, in these early games, like Super Sponge, like the calm beginnings of Battle for Bikini Bottom, everything feels like it has been built from memory. Not the memory of the town as it truly is, but the memory of how it feels. Jellyfish Fields stretches wider than in any map, glowing with soft colors, like a childhood summer that never ends. Downtown Bikini Bottom hums with distant energy, yet no one seems to be in a hurry. Even Goo Lagoon shimmers like a postcard from a warmer, simpler time. It is as if the ocean itself is trying to remember Bikini Bottom the way SpongeBob would remember it. Happy, bright, safe, and so the games become a kind of underwater scrapbook, turning feelings into places you can walk through, jump across, and explore at your own quiet pace. When you guide SpongeBob across these landscapes, it feels less like control and more like companionship. He never questions why he is alone in the streets. He never wonders where everyone has gone. He just smiles, waves at the empty air, and continues forward, collecting shining objects as if they were seashells scattered by the tide. In this world, progress is gentle. There is no rush, only the soft rhythm of steps, jumps, and distant music drifting like bubbles toward the surface. And as the console hums on, and Bikini Bottom continues to glow inside its glass and wires, you may begin to notice something strange. This town does not exist until you arrive. It waits in darkness, perfectly still, until the moment you choose to return. Then, like a reef waking with the sunrise, it opens its eyes again exactly as it was left, ready to be wandered, ready to be dreamed, ready to hold you gently within its looping streets and glowing skies. As SpongeBob leads the way through this quiet, playable memory of the sea. And as you drift a little deeper into this glowing version of Bikini Bottom, you may start to feel that the town itself is aware of your presence, not in any loud or frightening way, but in the soft manner of a place that has been waiting a long time for footsteps to return. The sand does not shift unless you move. The platforms do not rise unless you approach. Even the jellyfish seem to hover patiently in the water, as if they too know that nothing happens here unless someone is watching. This is the quiet magic of SpongeBob's game worlds. They are not bustling cities full of noise and chatter. They are stages of stillness, built for wandering, where every sound feels wrapped in water, every color softened by distance. When SpongeBob walks through his own bedroom in these games, it feels less like entering a house and more like stepping into a memory of home. The bed is perfectly made. The walls are bright and simple. Everything is exactly where it should be, as if nothing has ever changed here, and nothing ever will. Outside, Bikini Bottom stretches on in gentle layers. The Krusty Krab stands open, yet no line forms at the counter. The chum bucket waits in its familiar loneliness. Patrick's rock rests quietly on the sand, hiding nothing but stillness beneath it. These places exist not to be used, but to be seen, to remind you that this is the world you know, even if it feels like everyone has stepped away for just a little while. And so SpongeBob becomes more than a character. He becomes the caretaker of this quiet ocean dream. He jumps and spins, laughs in his soft, familiar way, and keeps the world alive by moving through it. Each step feels like a small promise that Bikini Bottom has not been forgotten. That somewhere someone still remembers how it looks when the sun filters down through the water, when bubbles rise from the sand, when simple music drifts through the blue. If you listen closely, you can almost hear the console breathing, a low, steady hum beneath the sound of waves and distant chimes. It is the heartbeat of this digital sea, keeping the dream afloat. Every level you enter feels like another room inside that shell, another story the ocean is willing to tell if you are patient enough to drift along. And perhaps that is why these games feel so comforting, even when nothing much seems to happen. They ask so little of you, just to move forward, just to explore, just to be there. In doing so, you become part of the memory too, another quiet presence woven into the glowing streets and coral shapes. As SpongeBob wanders across floating platforms and sandy paths, the idea slowly settles in, like silt at the bottom of calm water. This is not just a game about winning or losing. It is a place designed to be returned to, again and again, a gentle loop of beginnings, where the world resets not to challenge you, but to welcome you back, exactly as you left it, waiting in silence for the next soft touch of your hand. And with each return, the town feels less like a level to be cleared and more like a familiar shoreline you keep finding in your dreams. The colors never fade. The sky never darkens. Bikini Bottom rests in a kind of endless afternoon where time seems to have chosen to stop moving, content to simply glow. SpongeBob does not grow tired here. He does not wonder what day it is. He exists only in this gentle now, repeating his steps with the same cheerful calm, as if repetition itself were a comfort. You might notice how the paths curve softly, how the platforms float just far enough apart to invite a small leap of faith, but never so far that you feel afraid. Even danger in these worlds feels distant. Robots march in simple patterns. Hazards wait patiently until you drift too close. Nothing rushes toward you. Everything feels as if it has been placed carefully, like toys arranged on a bedroom floor, waiting to be played with when the night grows quiet. And in this stillness, the emptiness of the town begins to whisper its own gentle mystery. Where is everyone? Where are the crowds, the chatter, the busy little lives that usually fill these streets? The games never say. They simply leave the spaces open, wide and calm, as if Bikini Bottom has decided to take a long, peaceful breath. Perhaps the townsfolk are resting somewhere beyond the edges of the map. Or perhaps this world was never meant to hold them at all. Only their homes, their shops, their shapes, preserved like seashells after the tide is gone. SpongeBob does not seem to mind. He waves at nothing. He smiles at empty doorways. He talks to the air as if his friends are just around the corner, even when the corner leads only to more quiet sand and glowing coral. In this way, he feels like a dreamer wandering through his own memories, replaying the happiest parts, filling the silence with hope. And as you guide him onward, you may begin to feel that you are not just exploring Bikini Bottom, but keeping it alive. Every jump over a gap, every spin to collect a shining object, feels like another small spark of movement in a world that would otherwise remain perfectly still. Without you, SpongeBob would stand frozen forever at the start of the level, eyes wide, smile waiting. But with you he walks, and so the town breathes again. This is the strange, gentle bond between player and world. You do not save Bikini Bottom from great danger yet. You do not uncover its deepest secrets. Not here at the beginning. Instead, you simply exist within it, drifting from place to place, letting the ocean of pixels carry you forward. And in doing so, you become part of the town's quiet story, another presence folded into its endless afternoon. Somewhere beyond the glowing horizon of these early levels, deeper challenges and louder conflicts wait. But for now, in this first console-lit dream, Bikini Bottom is content to be simple, to be calm, to be a soft reflection of itself, glowing gently in the dark, as SpongeBob continues his slow, faithful walk through the memory of the sea. And as this first chapter of the dream begins to settle around you, the idea grows clearer, like shapes slowly appearing through the blue. These early SpongeBob games are not trying to recreate Bikini Bottom exactly as it is. They are recreating how it feels when you remember it late at night, when the lights are low and the world feels far away. The details soften, the edges blur. What remains are the emotions, floating gently in the dark. This is why the streets seem wider, the skies brighter, the silence deeper. It is the ocean remembering itself. A town turned into a lullaby, where every step SpongeBob takes echoes like a quiet heartbeat. Even the music drifts in slow loops, never truly ending, just folding back into itself like waves against the shore. You could stay here forever, and nothing would change. Perhaps that is exactly the point. Because in these game worlds, nothing ever grows old. SpongeBob never finishes his shift for good. The Krusty Krab never closes for the last time. Jellyfish Fields never loses its glow. The console keeps this version of Bikini Bottom preserved. Safe from time, safe from endings. All it asks is that someone return once in a while, just to remind it how to wake up. And so, as you rest here with SpongeBob at the beginning of his journey, you may feel that this town is not just waiting for adventure, but for company. It is waiting for quiet footsteps, for gentle attention, for the simple act of being seen. In that way, every time the game begins, it is like knocking softly on Bikini Bottom's door in the middle of the night and having it open with a warm, glowing smile. SpongeBob steps forward again, ready to wander wherever the path leads. Not because he needs to reach the end, but because moving is how this world stays alive. And you follow, not as a hero, not as a savior, but as a calm presence drifting beside him, sharing the silence, sharing the glow. This is the first console in Bikini Bottom, a quiet gateway, a soft machine that holds a dream of the sea inside its humming shell. And as its light continues to shimmer through the water, this gentle, pixelated town invites you to stay just a little longer, to float a little deeper, and to let the rest of the ocean wait, while SpongeBob leads you onward into the next calm chapter of his endless, playable dream. The water grows a little darker as we drift forward, and the glow of the first console fades behind us, replaced by the steady, distant shimmer of a town under watch. Bikini Bottom is still here, still calm, but something has changed. The streets feel wider now, the silence feels heavier, and somewhere beyond the coral shapes, a quiet tension hums through the sand, like the ocean holding its breath. This is the world of Battle for Bikini Bottom, a story that sounds loud when spoken aloud, full of robots and invasions, but feels strangely hushed when you walk through it. The sun still filters gently through the water. The music still drifts like slow bubbles, yet the town stands almost empty, as if everyone has stepped away, trusting SpongeBob to keep watch while they rest. Plankton's robots roam the streets, clanking softly in looping patterns, never truly chasing, never truly stopping. They are not wild or furious. They feel more like toys left behind, moving because they were built to move, repeating their paths like waves repeating the shore. Each one looks different, yet they all share the same quiet purpose: to be there, to exist, to give SpongeBob something to gently bump against as he wanders through the town. And SpongeBob, as always, steps forward without fear. He does not see an invasion. He does not feel the weight of danger. He simply sees a town that needs tidying, a world with shining objects scattered across it, waiting to be gathered like shells after a storm. With each small jump, each spin, he restores a little order. Not because he must, but because that is who he is, the one who keeps things moving when everything else stands still. What feels most unusual here is not the presence of robots, but the absence of everyone else. The Krusty Krab stands quiet. Squidward's house watches from its familiar place, closed and still. Patrick's rock waits patiently, hiding nothing but shadow beneath it. Bikini Bottom feels like a stage after the curtains have fallen, with only one actor left to walk across the boards, repeating the same gentle performance for an empty audience. And yet it does not feel lonely in a painful way. It feels peaceful, as if the town has chosen SpongeBob as its caretaker for the night, trusting him to wander its streets, to fix what little things he can, while the rest of the world sleeps somewhere just beyond the edges of the map. As you guide him through these empty spaces, the battle becomes less about fighting and more about tending. You are not charging into chaos. You are drifting through calm, brushing aside small mechanical echoes that stand in the way, collecting shining pieces of order from a world that never truly breaks. It begins to feel like this quiet war is not meant to be won. It is meant to be repeated. A soft routine, a loop of gentle motion in a town that will always need someone to walk its streets, to remind it that it is still there, glowing softly beneath the sea. And the more time you spend wandering through this quiet version of Bikini Bottom, the more it feels like the robots themselves are not intruders, but part of the rhythm of the place. They do not speak. They do not change. They simply move, again and again, along paths that never shift, like currents that have forgotten where they began. When SpongeBob bumps into them, they fall away, only to return moments later, as if nothing truly happened at all. In this way, the battle feels less like a struggle and more like a tide. You push back, and it gently rolls in again. No victory lasts. No loss remains. Everything resets, calm and unchanged, waiting for the next soft touch of movement to begin the loop once more. Even Plankton's plan, which sounds so grand when described, feels distant here. He is not marching through the streets. He is not shouting from rooftops. He is a small voice heard through screens, a distant echo of ambition that never quite reaches the sand beneath your feet. His robots roam, but he himself remains tucked away, like a thought that never fully leaves the mind, always there, but never truly present. And so SpongeBob becomes the only constant, the one who walks every path, the one who knows every jump, the one who never asks why the world looks this way, only how to move through it. He fixes broken things, not with tools or plans, but with motion, with attention, with the simple act of being there. As you guide him through jellyfish fields, the glow feels softer than ever, even with robots drifting between the flowers. The jellyfish still float in lazy circles. The grass still shimmers like light through glass. It feels as though the invasion has not disturbed this place at all. Like the field itself does not care what walks across it, as long as someone does. Downtown Bikini Bottom tells a similar story. The streets twist and turn, bright signs glowing above empty sidewalks. Robots clank along under neon lights, yet the mood remains calm, almost sleepy. It is a city without crowds, without voices, just music and motion, like a dream of a busy place remembered long after everyone has gone home. And as SpongeBob continues, you may begin to sense that this quiet war is not about protecting the town from destruction, but protecting it from stillness. Without SpongeBob's footsteps, without your guidance, Bikini Bottom would freeze in place, locked forever in the moment before movement begins. The robots would stand unmoving. The platforms would wait. The music would hang in silence. But because you are here, because SpongeBob walks, the town breathes. The quiet war becomes a gentle dance between motion and pause, a way for the world to keep reminding itself that it is still alive, even in its calm, looping sleep beneath the sea. And with every gentle circuit through these familiar streets, the feeling grows that SpongeBob is not just wandering through Bikini Bottom, but guarding its shape, keeping its memory from drifting apart. The robots may roam, but they never build. They never change the world. They only test it, softly, like waves brushing against a sandcastle to see if it still stands. And SpongeBob, with his endless patience, keeps setting things back in place, again and again. There is something quietly comforting about the way he never seems overwhelmed. Any other hero might rush, might worry, might carry the weight of the town on their shoulders. But SpongeBob carries nothing. He simply smiles, collects, jumps, and moves on. It is as if he does not see the invasion as a threat at all, but as another day at work, another chance to help, another excuse to wander through the places he loves. Even when he slips, even when he falls into goo or off a platform, he does not stay gone. He returns in an instant, standing calmly at the last safe place, as if waking from a short, harmless dream. Death here has no sting. It is just a pause, a breath, a reminder that nothing in this world is meant to end. And so the battle loses its sharp edges. It becomes a soft pattern. Fall, return, clear a path, watch it refill. Move forward, circle back. Each loop feels less like a struggle and more like a lullaby, rocking SpongeBob and the town together in a rhythm that never changes. When you finally reach places touched by the Flying Dutchman, or drift through darker corners of the map, even those shadows feel gentle. Graveyards glow with green light, but no fear rises from the sand. Ships float in still water, trapped in stories that never quite finish. The afterlife in this world feels less like an ending, and more like another quiet neighborhood, just a little further from the light. It begins to feel as though Bikini Bottom has accepted this invasion as part of itself, as if the robots are just another species of fish, wandering through coral streets, destined to repeat their paths forever. And SpongeBob, endlessly kind, endlessly patient, treats them no differently than he would treat anyone else. He bumps into them, spins them away, and keeps going, without anger, without triumph, without judgment. In that calm response, there is a quiet truth about who he is. SpongeBob is not here to defeat anything. He is here to continue, to be the one who moves when everything else is content to stay the same, to keep the town from slipping into complete stillness. And as you follow him, you may feel that you, too, are helping hold this world together. Not with force, not with clever plans, but simply by being present, by choosing to keep walking these paths, by letting the quiet war play out again, not because it must be won, but because it is the gentle heartbeat that keeps Bikini Bottom dreaming beneath the sea. And as this quiet war stretches on, you may begin to see it not as a story of conflict, but as a story of care. A town that has learned to live inside a loop, and a small yellow sponge who has learned to live inside that town, repeating the same gentle acts of kindness and motion, day after endless day. The robots become part of the scenery, like drifting debris after a storm that never fully clears. They remind SpongeBob where to step, when to jump, how to keep moving forward. Even Plankton, when he finally appears more clearly, feels less like a villain and more like a distant idea. His anger is there. His schemes still whisper through screens and speakers, but they never truly touch the sand beneath SpongeBob's feet. The world feels protected, not by walls or weapons, but by the simple fact that it refuses to change. Every reset brings Bikini Bottom back exactly as it was, safe in its familiar shape, no matter what plans were made against it. And perhaps that is the quiet secret of this battle. It is impossible to lose because nothing here can be taken away for long. Buildings do not crumble, streets do not stay broken. Even SpongeBob himself cannot truly be harmed. The world bends gently around every mistake, smoothing it away, inviting you to try again with the same calm patience it always offers. As you drift through one more empty street, past one more glowing sign, past one more robot tracing its endless path, you may feel the town settling into a deeper stillness. Not the stillness of fear, but the stillness of trust. Bikini Bottom trusts SpongeBob to keep walking, and SpongeBob trusts that the world will always be there to catch him when he falls. This is the quiet war of battle for Bikini Bottom, a conflict without anger, a struggle without despair, a story where the greatest victory is simply that the town continues to glow, that the music continues to drift, that SpongeBob continues to smile as he takes another soft step forward. And as this chapter of the dream gently comes to rest, the ocean around you feels calm again. The robots fade into the background like distant waves. The streets grow familiar once more. And SpongeBob, faithful as ever, keeps walking into the blue, ready to carry you onward, deeper into the mysteries of Bikini Bottom, where new paths wait to be explored, and new quiet stories wait to be told beneath the sleeping sea. The water grows quieter now, as if even the currents are beginning to listen. The echoes of clanking robots fade behind us, and what remains is a softer sound, the gentle hush of an empty ocean stretching wide in every direction. In this calm, SpongeBob is no longer just a caretaker of a looping town. He becomes something else, a traveler, a hero who moves through stillness while the world around him waits. In these game worlds, only a few characters truly walk. Only a few jump, spin, and wander beyond their small circles. SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, sometimes Mr. Krabs or Squidward are given the gift of motion, while everyone else remains where they are, repeating the same lines, the same gestures, the same quiet routines. They are like stars fixed in the sky, glowing but never drifting. And so the playable heroes carry a gentle loneliness with them. They step into wide spaces where no one follows. They cross fields and streets where voices do not answer back. Even when they stand beside their friends, something feels different. The world waits for them to move again, and until they do, nothing else truly changes. SpongeBob feels this most clearly. He is always ready to go, always smiling, always eager to help. Yet when you pause, when you set the controller down for a moment, he freezes in place, eyes open, smile waiting, stuck between breaths in a world that cannot continue without you. In that stillness, he feels less like a character and more like a figure caught in a dream, aware of movement, but unable to begin it alone. Patrick, too, drifts through this strange state of being. When you guide him, he feels powerful, able to lift heavy things, to leap across gaps with surprising ease. But when you leave him, he becomes just another statue in the sand, staring into space beneath his rock, waiting for the moment when he can move again. His innocence feels deeper here, touched by the quiet truth that he only exists fully when someone is there to walk with him. Sandy brings a different kind of loneliness. She moves with purpose, with confidence, always ready to test herself against the world. Yet even she wanders these empty places alone, a visitor from another era, another way of living, carrying her own quiet distance wherever she goes. Her tree dome stands like a small island of home in a sea that never quite feels like it belongs to her. And so, as you guide these heroes through the glowing streets and fields of Bikini Bottom, you may begin to sense that being playable is not just a gift. It is a responsibility. To move when no one else can. To explore when the world waits. To carry the quiet weight of being the only ones who can change anything, even if what they change is small. Even if it will all be undone when the game begins again. And with that weight resting gently on their shoulders, the playable heroes begin to feel like wanderers in their own home. They know every path, every jump, every familiar corner of Bikini Bottom, yet they rarely share those journeys with anyone else. Their friends remain behind, repeating the same words, the same smiles, like echoes that never quite reach back. When SpongeBob passes by Squidward's house, Squidward might sigh, complain, or mutter something familiar, but he never follows. He never joins the journey beyond his doorway. It is as if he belongs to the stillness, while SpongeBob belongs to the movement. Two lives brushing past each other, but never truly walking side by side. And so SpongeBob keeps going, carrying his chair into spaces where no one is waiting. Even Mr. Krabs, with his booming voice and watchful eyes, remains tied to his counter. He speaks, he gestures, he offers a task, but he does not step outside to see how the streets feel tonight. His world ends where the Krusty Krab's walls begin, while SpongeBob's world stretches far beyond, into places no one else seems to notice. This makes every journey feel like a quiet solo walk through a town of memories. The heroes move through places that belong to everyone, yet feel owned by no one. Wide fields glow under a silent sky. Tall platforms rise with no one to admire them. Secret corners wait, unseen, until a playable hero drifts close enough to bring them into being. And when the heroes change, when you switch from SpongeBob to Patrick, or from Patrick to Sandy, it feels like stepping into another pair of eyes, another lonely path through the same still dream. Each of them sees the world a little differently. SpongeBob fills it with hope. Patrick drifts through it with simple wonder. Sandy measures it with quiet strength. Yet all of them walk alone. In this way, the games quietly tell a story about awareness. The playable heroes are the ones who seem to know the world exists beyond the edges of the screen. They are allowed to see what lies behind buildings, above rooftops, beneath platforms. The others remain where they are, never glimpsing what waits just out of sight, never knowing how wide their own town truly is. And perhaps that is the softest loneliness of all. To know there is more, to wander through it, and to realize that no one else will ever quite see what you see, no matter how much you wish they could. And as these heroes continue their quiet wandering, the spaces between their steps begin to feel just as important as the steps themselves. Long stretches of sand where no voices rise. High ledges where only the wind of the ocean seems to pass by. In those moments, the world feels vast, not because it is crowded, but because it is open, waiting, offering room for thought to drift like bubbles toward the surface. SpongeBob often fills this space with laughter, even when no one is there to hear it. His cheerful sounds echo softly against empty coral walls, as if he is trying to remind himself that he is not truly alone. That somewhere just beyond the edges of this glowing map, his friends still exist, even if they cannot walk beside him right now. His optimism becomes a small lantern, lighting the way through stillness. Patrick, when he takes his turn, seems less bothered by the silence. He wanders with a calm acceptance, as if the quiet is simply another part of the world to enjoy. He lifts heavy things, splashes through puddles, pauses in strange places with no clear reason, content to exist without needing anyone to follow. Yet even in his peaceful drifting, there is a sense that he is unaware of how alone he truly is, like a dream that does not realize it is dreaming. Sandy's loneliness feels sharper, though she rarely shows it. She charges forward, tests herself against obstacles, leaps with confidence, as if proving that she belongs in every corner of this town. But beneath that strength is the quiet truth that she is always visiting, never fully at home. The ocean is not her natural world, and yet it is the only place where she can walk like this, through wide, empty spaces that seem to ask her to keep going, even when no one waits at the end. Together, these heroes form a small group of movers in a world of stillness. They do not travel together. They take turns. One rests while another walks. One waits frozen while another explores. It is as if the game itself cannot hold them all at once, as if too much motion would disturb the calm of Bikini Bottom's dream. And so each journey feels personal, private, a single thread of movement woven through a tapestry of quiet. When SpongeBob climbs a tall tower or leaps across floating platforms, it feels like a moment meant only for him and for you. No one else will see it. No one else will comment. It will live only in the memory of the one who walked it. In this way, being playable is like being awake in a world that prefers to sleep. The heroes carry awareness into places that would otherwise remain untouched. They shine light into corners that would stay dark. And when they finally stop, when the controller rests and the world freezes again, that awareness fades, leaving the town exactly as it was, waiting for the next gentle awakening. And as this chapter of wandering draws closer to rest, the loneliness of the playable heroes begins to feel less like sadness and more like a quiet role they have accepted. They are the ones who walk when walking is needed, the ones who move when the world waits, not because they were chosen, but because someone, somewhere, reached out and placed their attention upon them. In that way, their loneliness is gently shared with you. Every step they take is guided. Every jump is answered. They may walk alone through the glowing streets of Bikini Bottom, but they never truly walk without company. There is always a presence beside them, calm and unseen, keeping them moving, keeping their world awake. SpongeBob, with his endless smile, seems to understand this more than anyone. He never looks back to see who follows. Yet he moves as if he knows he is not alone. His joy feels like a quiet thank you, a soft recognition that someone cares enough to walk with him through empty fields and silent towns, even when nothing is asked in return. Patrick, drifting in his gentle way, carries that same unspoken trust. He does not question why he can lift what others cannot, or why he alone is allowed to wander so far from his rock. He simply accepts it, as if he knows that his journey exists because someone wishes to see the world through his eyes for a while. And Sandy, strong and steady, seems to treat this bond as a challenge, to go farther, to climb higher, to test every corner of the map, as if proving that this shared awareness can reach anywhere, even in a world built from stillness. Together, though they never walk side by side, they form a quiet circle of motion around Bikini Bottom. They are the pulse of a sleeping town, the gentle heartbeat that reminds the dream it is still alive. And when the movement finally pauses, when the world freezes once more in soft light and silence, their loneliness returns. But only for a moment, because somewhere beyond the screen, someone is still there, resting, watching, ready to return. This is the loneliness of playable heroes. Not the loneliness of being forgotten, but the loneliness of waiting. Waiting for the next touch of attention. Waiting for the next gentle command to move. Waiting for the dream to open its eyes again so they can step forward and once more carry the quiet life of Bikini Bottom through the calm, endless blue. The water around us grows softer again, as if the ocean itself is turning the pages of an old scrapbook. The footsteps of our heroes fade into the background, and what remains are the places they walked, the glowing fields, the winding streets, the quiet corners that waited patiently to be seen. Here, in this part of the dream, Bikini Bottom is no longer just a town. It becomes a collection of memories, each one shaped into a level, each one holding a feeling beneath its colors and light. When SpongeBob drifts into jellyfish fields, it feels like stepping into childhood itself. The grass shimmers in gentle waves. Jellyfish float lazily through the air, glowing like tiny lanterns in the blue. There is no rush here, no sharp edges, just open space and soft music, inviting you to wander without worry. It feels like the memory of summer afternoons that never wanted to end, when the world was wide and nothing asked anything of you except to play. And downtown Bikini Bottom carries a different feeling. The signs glow bright against the water. Buildings rise tall and close together, forming twisting paths that seem to lead everywhere and nowhere at once. Here, the memory is of busyness, of excitement, of the hum of life, even though the streets are empty. It feels like remembering a crowd long after everyone has gone home, when the lights are still on, but the voices have faded into echoes. Then there is Goo Lagoon, warm and shimmering, where the water feels lighter and the colors glow with a gentle cheer. It is the memory of laughter near the shore, of simple joy, of days spent doing nothing important at all. Even without crowds, the place feels full, as if the laughter still hangs in the air, invisible but present, like warmth you can feel but not see. Rock Bottom waits deeper, darker, quieter. The colors fade into blues and purples. Strange shapes drift in the distance. The feeling here is not fear, but uncertainty. The memory of being lost, of not knowing how to get home, of watching buses pass without stopping. It is the soft ache of waiting in a place that does not feel like it belongs to you, hoping that somehow you will find your way back to the light. Each level feels like this. Not just a place to cross, but a feeling to drift through. The game does not arrange Bikini Bottom as it truly lies beneath the sea. It arranges it as SpongeBob might remember it. A map of emotions, woven into coral and sand, waiting for you to wander from one memory to the next. And as you move gently from one level to another, it begins to feel like turning pages in a book written by the ocean itself. Each place carries its own color, its own rhythm, its own quiet story, yet all of them blend together into a single flowing dream of Bikini Bottom. Industrial zones hum with a low, steady energy. Pipes stretch across the sand like sleeping sea serpents. Steam rises and fades into the blue, soft and slow. These places feel like memories of work, of effort, of the unseen systems that keep the town moving even when no one is watching. They are not warm, but they are not cold either. They simply exist, steady and patient, like the background thoughts of a world that never truly rests. And then there are the places touched by the Flying Dutchman. Graveyards where green light drifts across old stones, shipwrecks resting quietly on the sand, their stories long since settled into silence. These levels feel like memories of endings, of things that have passed on but never quite disappeared. Yet even here, nothing feels frightening. The glow is gentle, the shadows are soft. The afterlife in Bikini Bottom seems less like a final door and more like another quiet room in the same endless house. High above, floating platforms and towering structures rise into open water, where the sense of height feels strange in a world without sky. These places carry the memory of striving, of wanting to reach something just out of grasp. Each jump feels like a small hope, each landing a quiet relief. They remind you of moments when SpongeBob believed he could do more, be more, even when no one else was there to see it. What ties all these places together is not geography, but feeling. You do not travel from jellyfish fields to downtown because they are neighbors on a map. You travel because one memory leads gently into another. Joy drifts into excitement. Excitement fades into uncertainty. Uncertainty softens into calm. It is the flow of thought itself, turning into paths of sand and light. And as you guide SpongeBob through these spaces, you are not just exploring a town, you are drifting through a mind, through the way Bikini Bottom remembers itself, the way SpongeBob carries his world inside him, shaped not by distance, but by meaning. Each level feels like a quiet thought rising to the surface, inviting you to wander through it before sinking back down again. So the journey becomes less about reaching the end and more about feeling each place as it passes. Letting jellyfish fields glow around you. Letting rock bottoms settle like a deep breath. Letting downtown shimmer and fade, each level leaves a soft trace behind, like ripples on calm water, as you drift onward through this memory of the sea. And with every gentle step, the idea grows stronger that these levels are not meant to be conquered, but remembered. They do not rush you forward. They invite you to linger, to notice the way light bends through water, the way colors shift as you move, the way silence wraps around each corner like a soft blanket. Even the smallest areas feel chosen with care. A quiet cave glowing with hidden light feels like a secret kept since childhood. A narrow path along a cliff feels like a memory of walking somewhere you were not supposed to go, heart fluttering but curious. A hidden ledge with nothing on it but space and sky feels like the memory of standing still, just to look, just to breathe. In jellyfish fields, the open space feels endless, like freedom itself. The jellyfish drift without purpose, simply glowing and floating, teaching the world how to exist without needing to arrive anywhere. It is the memory of play without rules, of laughter without reason, of days that did not need to be counted. In downtown, the tall buildings and twisting roads feel like the memory of excitement, of being small in a big place, of wanting to explore every corner even when you are not sure where any of them lead. It carries the energy of curiosity, softened by distance, as if remembering a busy day long after the noise has faded. Rock Bottom holds the memory of fear gently in its hands, the fear of being lost, of being left behind, of not knowing how to return to what feels like home. Yet even here, the fear is not sharp. It is wrapped in soft colors and slow music, turning worry into something you can walk through, something you can survive, something that eventually leads you back to the light. And the places touched by ghosts and shipwrecks hold the memory of endings without finality, of things that are gone but not forgotten, of stories that have settled into stillness, yet remain part of the world's shape. They remind you that even in a place built for endless loops, there is room for the feeling of goodbye, gentle and distant, like a wave fading into sand. Together, these levels form a map of emotion, more than a map of land, a quiet atlas of how Bikini Bottom feels when remembered in sleep. Joy, curiosity, uncertainty, calm. They rise and fall like tides, carrying SpongeBob and you from one to the next without ever needing to explain why. And as you wander, you may begin to feel that you are not just passing through memories. You are becoming part of them. Each step you take leaves a small echo in the dream, weaving your presence into the soft fabric of this glowing underwater scrapbook, where every place waits patiently to be felt again. And as this chapter of memories begins to settle, the levels of Bikini Bottom feel less like separate places and more like rooms in a single endless home. A home built not from walls and doors, but from feelings that drift gently into one another. You move from laughter into quiet, from wonder into stillness, without ever noticing where one ends and the next begins. It becomes clear that this is how the game chooses to hold the town together. Not by streets or distances, but by the way each place makes you feel. The world is stitched from emotion, and SpongeBob walks its seams, carrying you from one memory to the next with the same calm smile, as if he has always known that this is how his home truly works. When you think of Bikini Bottom in these games, you may not remember exact paths or turns. You remember how Jellyfish Fields felt open and light, how Rock Bottom felt heavy and slow, how downtown shimmered with quiet excitement. These feelings stay with you longer than any map ever could, because they are the heart of the place, the part that drifts with you long after the screen fades to dark. And perhaps that is why returning to these levels feels like coming back to a dream you have had before. You may not recall every detail, but the emotions rise up as soon as you step inside. The comfort of open fields, the gentle tension of deep shadows, the warmth of glowing shores. They greet you like old friends, even if you cannot quite remember when you last saw them. In this way, the levels become more than stages. They become vessels for memory. Quiet containers holding pieces of Bikini Bottom's soul, waiting to be opened whenever someone chooses to wander again. The console hums, the light returns, and suddenly you are back in that familiar feeling, drifting through a world that seems to recognize you, even if it cannot say your name. As SpongeBob pauses at the edge of another glowing path, ready to step into whatever memory waits next, the ocean around you feels calm and full. The scrapbook of levels closes softly behind you, its pages settling back into the dream. And with that gentle motion, Bikini Bottom invites you onward once more, deeper into its endless sea of remembered places, where every corner holds a feeling, and every feeling is a doorway into the quiet heart of the town. The ocean feels still now, as if even the currents have slowed to listen. The memories of places fade gently behind us, and what remains is the quiet rhythm of something repeating. A soft pulse, a moment that ends, only to begin again. Here, in this part of the dream, Bikini Bottom reveals its strangest secret. Time does not move forward, it circles. In these game worlds, every ending is also a beginning. When SpongeBob reaches the last platform, when the final robot falls away, when the goal is gently met, nothing truly changes. The screen fades, the light shifts, and suddenly he is back where he started, smiling the same smile, ready to take the first step once more. The town is whole again. The streets are quiet. The shining objects have returned to their places as if they were never gathered at all. This is the power of the reset button. A small, simple thing, yet it holds an entire world inside it. One press and time folds back on itself like a wave returning to the shore. Mistakes soften, falls are undone. Even moments of triumph drift away, leaving behind only the calm promise that you can begin again, exactly as you were. SpongeBob never seems to notice. He does not ask why the robots are back. He does not wonder why the paths he cleared are filled again. He simply steps forward, cheerful and patient, as if this looping world feels perfectly natural to him. Perhaps in some quiet way, it is. When he falls into goo, he does not fade. He rises again at the last safe place, unharmed, unchanged, as if the ocean itself has lifted him gently back to shore. Death here is not an ending. It is a pause, a breath, a reminder that nothing in this dream is allowed to break for long. And so Bikini Bottom becomes a place without aging. The Krusty Krab never grows old. Jellyfish Fields never loses its glow. SpongeBob never finishes his shift for good. Every day looks like the first day. Every adventure leaves no mark. The world is preserved in an endless afternoon, glowing softly beneath the sea. As you guide SpongeBob through this looping time, You may begin to feel that you are not just playing a game. You are touching the edges of eternity, a small, gentle eternity, where nothing is lost and nothing is allowed to stay changed. A place where time rests, content to circle forever, as long as someone is there to keep pressing begin. And with each gentle return to the beginning, the feeling grows that Bikini Bottom is less a town and more a snow globe, shaken softly, then left to settle back into its familiar shape. No matter how far you wander, no matter what you collect or clear away, the world always finds its way back to stillness, back to the moment before movement begins. The save point becomes a quiet anchor in this drifting sea of time, a small glowing promise that says, you can rest here, and when you return, everything will be waiting. Not changed, not aged, just paused, like a breath held gently underwater. SpongeBob stands at these points like a marker of now, ready to step forward whenever the dream wakes again. Even the act of turning the game off feels like another kind of reset. The screen fades to dark, the hum of the console softens, and Bikini Bottom disappears entirely, folded away into silence. Yet it is not gone. It is only sleeping, waiting in the quiet until someone chooses to return, until light pours back into the ocean, and the first step is taken once more. For SpongeBob, this means a life without memory. He never recalls the adventures you have shared. He never remembers the towers climbed, the fields crossed, the robots cleared away. Each time you return, he greets the world as if it were brand new, as if nothing has ever happened before. His joy feels eternal, untouched by repetition, because for him, every loop is the first loop. There is something gentle in that, to live without the weight of yesterday, to meet each moment with the same open heart, even if it has happened 1,000 times before. SpongeBob's smile does not fade because he does not know it is repeating. He simply knows that he is here, and that feels like enough. And yet for you, the one who remembers, the loops begin to layer. Each return carries the echo of past journeys. You recognize paths. You anticipate jumps. You know where the hidden corners wait. Time may not move for the town, but it moves for you. You grow more familiar, more careful, more at ease. In this way, the reset button creates two kinds of time. One that stands still for Bikini Bottom, and one that flows gently for the one who keeps coming back. Two currents moving side by side, never quite touching, yet forever bound together in this looping dream beneath the sea. And as these two currents of time drift alongside each other, the world begins to feel like a place suspended between memory and forgetting. SpongeBob walks without the past, while you walk carrying it gently with you. Every jump you make is guided by what you have learned before. Every corner you turn feels familiar, even though, for him, it is always the first time. This creates a quiet kind of immortality. SpongeBob will never grow older. He will never tire. He will never reach a final day where the ocean closes around him for good. As long as the console can hum, as long as someone chooses to return, he will always be there, waiting at the start, ready to take that same first step into a world that never changes. And yet this immortality is soft, not grand. It does not come with stories of great ages past or kingdoms rising and falling. It comes with repetition, with the same streets, the same glow, the same gentle tasks done over and over again without complaint. SpongeBob's eternity is built from small moments, stacked endlessly like grains of sand. For Bikini Bottom itself, this looping time feels like protection. Nothing can truly be lost here. Even when something seems broken, it will be restored. Even when danger appears, it will fade. The reset button guards the town from scars, from change, from the slow erosion that time brings to every place that moves forward. It keeps the dream intact, untouched by endings. But in that protection, there is also a quiet stillness. The town cannot grow, it cannot learn, it cannot remember. It lives forever in a single shining moment, repeating itself gently like a song stuck in a beautiful loop, comforting, familiar, and unable to move on. You may begin to wonder what that feels like from the inside, to exist in a world where nothing ever truly changes, where every mistake is undone, where every victory fades, where each day feels like the first because there are no others to compare it to. Is it peaceful? Or is it a kind of gentle cage hidden beneath warm light and cheerful music? SpongeBob never asks. He never seems to notice. He simply keeps walking, smiling, jumping, returning, as if the loop itself is his home. And perhaps it is. A place where he can always be exactly who he is, without the weight of time pressing against him. As you guide him through this endless circle, you become the only witness to its shape, the only one who can see that time is standing still, even as your own time continues to flow, carrying you forward while Bikini Bottom remains forever bathed in its calm, glowing afternoon. And as this endless circle continues to turn, you may begin to feel the reset button not as a command, but as a lullaby, a soft whisper that says, it's all right to begin again. It's all right to rest. It's all right to let the world return to the way it was, safe and unchanged. Each reset smooths away the sharp edges of effort. Every fall becomes a lesson that leaves no bruise. Every challenge becomes a pattern you learn, not a wound you carry. In this way, time in Bikini Bottom feels kind. It does not punish. It does not demand. It simply invites you to try once more, with the same calm patience it always offers. For SpongeBob, this kindness is everything. He lives inside it, wrapped in a world that will never grow tired of him, never ask him to be different, never push him toward an ending he cannot see. His smile remains bright because the world around him is built to protect it, looping gently so that nothing can truly take it away. And when you step back for a moment, when the controller rests and the screen fades, you may realize that Bikini Bottom is waiting, even then, waiting in darkness, waiting without time, waiting for the next spark of light that will call it back into being. The town does not age in the dark. It does not drift. It simply holds itself perfectly still until someone chooses to wake it again. In that stillness, there is a strange comfort to know that something can remain exactly as you left it, that no matter how long you are gone, you can return and find the same glow, the same paths, the same gentle beginning waiting for you. In a world where everything else moves forward, Bikini Bottom becomes a quiet promise that some things can stay. And so the reset button becomes more than a tool. It becomes the heart of this dream, the soft beat that keeps time from moving, the small gesture that says, this moment is enough, and it can last as long as you wish. As SpongeBob stands once more at the start, ready to take that familiar first step, the ocean around him feels calm and endless. Time rests, the world waits, and with a gentle touch, the loop begins again, carrying you and Bikini Bottom together through another quiet circle of light beneath the sleeping sea. And as this chapter of looping time slowly settles into stillness, the reset button begins to feel less like an action and more like a place, a soft shore where every journey ends and from which every journey quietly begins again. SpongeBob stands there forever at the edge of his world, smiling into a future that always looks the same, because for him, there is no yesterday to compare it to. You may notice how gentle that makes everything feel. There is no pressure to hurry, no fear of missing anything forever. Whatever you do can always be done again. Whatever you leave behind will be waiting. The town does not mind. It does not grow impatient. It simply holds its shape, glowing patiently beneath the sea, trusting that if you wish to return, it will be there. In this way, Bikini Bottom becomes a kind of sanctuary from time itself, a place where change cannot reach, where loss cannot stay, where even endings are only doorways back to the beginning. The reset button protects this world like a shell protects something soft inside, keeping it safe from the sharp edges of moving forward. And yet, as you rest here, you may also feel the quiet strangeness of it, to live forever in one moment, to never grow beyond who you are, to smile the same smile, walk the same paths, greet the same morning again and again, without ever knowing it has happened before. It is peaceful, yes, but it is also still, a stillness so deep that it almost feels like sleep. Perhaps that is why this world feels so perfect for drifting off. Bikini Bottom is already dreaming. Its time is already resting. And as you follow SpongeBob through these endless beginnings, you are not just playing through loops. You are floating inside a dream that refuses to wake. The console hum becomes softer in your thoughts. The light grows warmer, dimmer. SpongeBob's footsteps slow, not because he is tired, but because the moment itself is content to linger. Nothing needs to happen right now. Nothing needs to change. And so this segment of the journey comes to a gentle pause. The reset button waits, glowing quietly in the background, ready whenever it is needed. Time remains still. The ocean remains calm, and Bikini Bottom continues to hold its endless afternoon, inviting you to rest within it a little longer, before drifting onward into whatever quiet mystery waits next beneath the sea. The ocean feels closer now, wrapping gently around everything, as if Bikini Bottom itself is leaning in to listen. The loops of time soften behind us, and what remains is a quiet awareness. A sense that someone has been here all along, moving through the glow, keeping the dream awake. Here, at the edge of this long drift, we begin to notice the final resident of Bikini Bottom, the one who does not live inside the screen, yet is always present when the town begins to breathe. It is you. Every street that lights up does so because you returned. Every jellyfish that drifts into view does so because you guided SpongeBob forward. The town does not wake for itself. It waits, patient, still. And then when you choose to come back, it opens its eyes, glowing softly beneath the sea, ready to be walked once more. In this way, you become part of Bikini Bottom's quiet rhythm. Not a visitor who passes through, but a presence the world depends on. When you are there, the town exists. When you are gone, it sleeps. Not forgotten, not lost, just folded away into darkness, holding its shape until your attention calls it back again. SpongeBob may walk the paths, Patrick may lift the stones, Sandy may leap across wide gaps, but none of them move unless you are there to guide them. They carry motion, but you carry awakening. You are the tide that rolls in and out, deciding when the sand should feel footsteps again. And perhaps that is why, as you drift through these quiet streets, the town never feels empty in a lonely way. Even when no characters speak, even when the music hums softly in the background, there is a sense that someone is here, watching, listening, caring enough to keep the dream alive. You do not speak in this world, yet your presence is everywhere, in every jump, every turn, every pause at the edge of a glowing path. The town answers to your smallest touch, rearranging itself gently to follow your lead, as if it recognizes you as a part of its design, part of the ocean's quiet machinery. And as you guide SpongeBob forward once more, you may begin to feel that you are not just playing through Bikini Bottom. You are living in it for a little while, becoming its final resident, the one who does not belong to any house yet belongs to every path, the one who keeps the lights on simply by being there. And with that realization, the town begins to feel warmer, closer, as if it knows you now. Not by name, not by face, but by the gentle pattern of your choices. The way you pause to look at the water. The way you guide SpongeBob toward a hidden corner instead of the main path. The way you linger in jellyfish fields just a little longer than necessary, simply because the glow feels comforting. Bikini Bottom learns you through these small movements. Each return leaves a faint echo behind. Not in the town itself, which always resets, but in the way you walk it. You grow familiar with its curves, its rhythms, its quiet surprises, and in that familiarity, the town becomes less like a game and more like a place you know how to be in. When you guide SpongeBob, you may start to feel that his journey is also yours. His jumps mirror your intention. His pauses reflect your mood. If you move quickly, the world feels light and playful. If you move slowly, the world settles into calm, as if it is matching your breath. The town becomes a mirror, reflecting not just its own glow, but the quiet state you bring into it. And in those moments when you stop, when SpongeBob freezes gently in place and the world holds its breath with him, it feels as though Bikini Bottom is waiting for you to decide what comes next. Not demanding, not rushing, just trusting. The town does not move without your touch, and so it rests content to be still until you are ready. This gives your presence a quiet power. Not the power of control, but the power of care. You are not here to command. You are here to notice, to wander, to keep the dream open a little longer. In doing so, you become something like a lighthouse in this digital sea, a steady glow that tells the world it is still being seen. Even when you make mistakes, when SpongeBob slips or falls, the town does not judge. It simply lifts him back to safety, waiting for your next gentle nudge forward. The world is built to forgive because it knows you will try again, that you will keep walking, that you will not abandon it in the middle of its glow. And so, step by step, jump by jump, you settle into this role without even noticing. The final resident of Bikini Bottom, the quiet presence who does not age, does not speak, does not leave a mark, yet is woven into every moment the town is awake. And as you settle into this quiet role, the town begins to feel like it is built around your attention, as if every path curves gently toward wherever you choose to look next. The world does not pull you forward. It waits. It offers. It opens small doors of possibility, trusting that you will wander through them in your own time. You may notice how the music seems to breathe with you, how it swells slightly when you move and softens when you pause, how the glow of the water feels brighter when you lean in and dimmer when you drift back. It is as if Bikini Bottom is listening, adjusting itself to the rhythm of your presence, shaping its dream around the way you explore. In this way, you are not just inside the world. The world is gently inside you too. Your memories of it mix with its own looping shapes. A certain corner might remind you of a time you visited before. A familiar jump might bring back the feeling of a past night, long ago, when you wandered here for the first time. The town becomes stitched into your own memories, just as you become stitched into its glow. Even when the screen goes dark, Bikini Bottom lingers for a while. You might still see jellyfish fields when you close your eyes, still hear the soft hum of the music in the back of your mind. It follows you out of the dream, not to pull you back, but to remind you that it is waiting quietly whenever you wish to return. And perhaps that is the deepest connection of all. Bikini Bottom does not need you to save it. It does not need you to fix it. It only needs you to be there, to notice its light, to keep its dream from fading completely into darkness. Your presence is enough. SpongeBob, in his gentle way, seems to understand this. He never looks at you, yet everything he does feels like an answer to your touch. His smile feels like gratitude. His endless willingness to keep going feels like trust. He walks because you are there, and because he walks, the town continues to glow. So you and SpongeBob move together, one guiding, one guided, through streets that only exist when you both are present. Two parts of the same quiet rhythm, keeping Bikini Bottom awake, even as the ocean around it drifts towards sleep. In this shared motion, the idea settles softly that you are not just playing a game. You are keeping a world alive for a little while. Not with force, not with effort, but with attention, with presence, with the simple choice to stay. And as this long drift begins to quiet even further, the role of final resident feels less like something you do and more like something you become. You no longer think about guiding or controlling. You simply move, and the world moves with you. A calm partnership between your attention and Bikini Bottom's glow, flowing together like two gentle currents in the same sea. You may notice how the town never asks who you are. It does not need your name, your story, or your past. It only feels that you are here. That is enough. In this dream, identity is not carried in words but in motion, in the way you walk, in the pauses you choose, in the paths you return to, night after night, as if they know you now. And in return, Bikini Bottom offers you a place without demands. A place where nothing needs to be achieved, where no clock is ticking, where even the idea of an ending feels distant and soft. It becomes a small refuge from the noise of waking life, a glowing pocket of calm where you can drift without needing to be anywhere else. Perhaps that is why, even as you grow tired, the town does not fade. It seems to grow gentler instead. The colors soften, the music slows. SpongeBob's footsteps feel lighter, as if he too senses that the night is deepening, that it is time to walk more slowly, to let the world settle. And when you finally rest your hand, when the controller lies still and SpongeBob freezes gently in place, Bikini Bottom does not feel abandoned. It feels tucked in, as if the town itself is going to sleep, holding its shape in the dark, knowing that it will wake again when you return. You remain its final resident even then, not because you are there, but because you have been there, because the glow has touched you and you have touched it in return. The connection does not break when the screen goes dark. It simply becomes quiet. So as the ocean around you grows calm and your thoughts begin to drift like bubbles toward the surface, you can rest knowing that Bikini Bottom is safe, waiting, dreaming, held gently inside its looping light, until the next time you choose to return and once more let the town wake beneath the sea. And now, as this final chapter of our drift settles into stillness, the ocean feels wide and peaceful, as if it has been holding this moment for you all along. Bikini Bottom no longer calls for movement. It no longer waits for footsteps. It simply rests, glowing softly in the distance, like a small constellation beneath the sea. You have walked its streets. You have wandered its fields. You have kept its dream alive with nothing more than your presence. And in doing so, you have become part of its quiet story, a gentle thread woven into the endless loop of light and memory that defines this underwater world. SpongeBob stands somewhere in that glow, smiling as he always does. Not because anything exciting has happened, but because you were there with him, because the town woke when you arrived, because for a little while the dream had company. Now there is nothing left to guide, no path that needs choosing, no jump that needs timing. The world is content to be still, to let the glow fade into a softer, warmer light, as if the ocean itself is dimming the lamps one by one. You can let your thoughts slow, the way the waves slow when the tide turns. You can let the music of Bikini Bottom become a distant hum, like water moving far below the surface. There is nothing left to solve, nothing left to hold. Only the calm knowledge that this dream will be waiting whenever you wish to return. And as you rest, you may imagine Bikini Bottom drifting too, curling gently into its endless afternoon, holding its shape in the quiet dark, safe and unchanged. The streets are still, the fields glow faintly. The town sleeps, not alone, but with the comfort of knowing it has been seen. So you can drift now, away from the glow, away from the paths, away from the gentle hum of the console and into your own quiet sea of rest. Let the ocean carry you. Let the dream fade. Let everything become soft and calm. Good night.